Okay, hello, welcome back. We are still in Assassin's Creed Syndicate because, I really want to be in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So I'm going to tell essentially three stories about myself here and then get into the topic. And because I think these stories really do relate to the topic. So we're going to start, and you guys may be familiar with it. My followers who have been with me for quite a while will probably be familiar with this first story. All three of you. But, so a while ago I got a lovely game called Assassin's Creed Origins. It's the next game in the series after Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and while I didn't enjoy it as much as I have been enjoying Syndicate, it was still a pretty fun game to play. Pretty enjoyable. I can do a full critique on it, but yeah, the gameplay was pretty good. It was, had some good moments. Pretty fun game. So I got really far into the game before I discovered this. But in Alexandria, it takes place in Egypt, and in Alexandria, I discovered that there were topless women wandering around. And this discovery was made right after the whole Harvey Weinstein scandal broke. So it was right after that. It seemed highly inappropriate, made me feel uncomfortable. But regardless of that, I tried to push through, to complete the game. And I think I was actually pretty close to the end of the game, but my feeling of discomfort was so high that I just had to get rid of the game. Just the knowledge that was in there after all, like, the horrible stuff that had come out after the Harvey Weinstein thing, completely ruined my gameplay, essentially. I just couldn't enjoy the game anymore. And so I'd get rid of the game, and, I talked a little bit about this, why I wouldn't be playing it, and, why it was important to me at the time. So, we're gonna fast forward a little bit to a little while ago on Twitter. This is a new story that we're going to be telling now. Yay, yes. So, other day on Twitter, so apparently at a protest, I'm not entirely sure actually or a march, it's some sort of pride march that was going on. Here, let me get out of the way of that storyline. But I'm not entirely sure what it was, but there was somebody who had shown up there and apparently was against the people who were marching. And the people who were marching, they were, or at least had been, men, and dressed as women, and they used their fans to silence the person who opposed them for whatever reason. Now, I don't know why this person opposed these people who were dressed as women. I actually don't... I'm being careful with my pronouns here because I have no idea how they view themselves or what their standing was or anything like that. And, I honestly don't know what they were marching for. So, my knowledge of this is very limited, so I didn't know what the person was going to say to them before they... from what I saw of the video, this person didn't even get a chance to say anything before they brought out the fans and just noisily waved the fans pretty much in her face to silence her, to keep her from expressing her views. But apparently she expressed views that were against these people in the past, and they felt it was justified to silence this person. Now, my view on this, on, the First Amendment, on people being allowed to speak, is very, very simple. It's basically, it's back to what I'd always thought was a saying of Voltaire's, but apparently he didn't actually say it, which is something I learned recently. I have no idea who originally said it if it wasn't Voltaire, so yes, I know a lot, don't I? Regardless, the original statement was, I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight to the death to allow you to say it. And I think that's kind of how all public discussions and so on should be approached. We may not agree with the people speaking, but these people should be allowed to speak. You know, even if we completely and totally disagree with. And I put the exception essentially exactly where the First Amendment puts the exception. If they're causing imminent violence, if they're saying, let's go kill this person, no, I am completely against that. If they're saying, let's burn down this house, I'm completely against that. But, you know, if they're expressing their views, regardless of what their views may be, regardless of whether I agree with it or not, I believe that they have a right to speak their mind. And so so this had come up on Twitter, and I expressed this on Twitter, and I said I just basically said it, you know, as simply as I possibly could. You know, I don't know what this person's points were, but I think they should have been allowed to speak their points. And I got a lot of people arguing with me. Now, there were a couple of interesting discussions and arguments. One person basically said that the Ninth Amendment canceled out this person's right to speak, which was an interesting argument. Another person used the tolerance paradox to argue with me, and, you know, while I didn't agree with their fully arguments, I completely respect that these people were willing, you know, to argue their point and had thought about it enough to bring out kind of obscure little arguments against my argument. I totally respect the people who did that. I think that was a great argument, even if I didn't fully agree with their argument. But a lot of people were very, very disrespectful. Had someone I've communicate with before on Twitter referred to me as or said, you sound like an a-hole and a hypocrite, you know, which seemed a little mean. You know, and I was called racist, fascist, and so on, for holding the belief that everyone should have the right to speak. So I find on Twitter that oftentimes things that seem fairly innocuous to me, like, you know, saying, hey, everyone should have a right to speak, tends to lead people to, tends to create a lot of outpouring against whatever the point of view I was expressing. So, it was kind of fun in that regard. But, yep, so that did happen. So that's my second story of what happened. So my third story, let me get to some solid ground to express this, so I can pull this up and show you. So here we have Evie. We're in kind of a crimson outfit right now. Let me turn around so you can see, you know, very lovely crimson outfit. But let's jump ahead to inventory. Now, we get into outfits. For the most part, I'll jump around. I like Lady Millennia's gown for just the casual ones. That's probably my favorite. But, you know, they have all these other great Defender's garb and outfits that I'll occasionally switch to. But there's a couple that are solid colors, meaning the colors don't change. Like, you know, the Aegis and Elise or Aveline that I will switch to just, you know, whenever I feel in the mood. There's also, I don't really wear Dr. Daniel's garments. It's just not my thing. But there's one outfit I absolutely never wear, and it's the Blofer Lady outfit. So let's put that on and take a look at it, and I will tell you why. So we look at it. So first off, it was part of an expansion pack that was supposed to be literature of the time period, and this was supposed to be from Dracula. Now, I love the book Dracula and so on, and, you know, I normally would like this, but what I don't like about it, and you can kind of see it in this image. Let me go back and show you. Closer image. So if you look, she's wearing an upside-down cross as part of this outfit. Now, there are two reasons. One, because of my religious belief, it actually kind of makes me a bit uncomfortable. That's just straight up my own personal thing. It makes me uncomfortable. But also, two, you know, it's been a while, but I don't recall an upside-down cross being a part of Dracula in any way, shape, or form. I recall, like, the cheesy 60s and 70s vampire movies, you know, putting a lot of claim on it and, you know, saying, you know, how it's all vampires are satanic and stuff like that. And, you know, it's almost eye-rollingly cliched. And that bothers me on that level. So there are two levels. One, religious, it's against my religious beliefs, and two, it just seems so cliched. So just straight up personal level, that bothers me. So I'm going back to this lovely, lovely outfit. So you're probably asking yourself at this point, what do these three lovely, lovely stories have to do with anything? With what we're talking about? Well, the entire topic of this that I'm talking about can be summed up by one of Shakespeare's more famous lines, which is, "To thine own self be true." Basically, even when you have situations like the ones I described, you should be true to yourself. So let's take a look at each of these situations. Now, there's a negative impact to all three situations I described. In the first situation, a game I liked was suddenly unavailable to me. I couldn't play it because, I had an issue with one part of the game. One small aspect of the game upset me so much I couldn't continue playing it. And that's my loss. I lost that. So on the second one, I had a lot of people really, really upset at me for essentially expressing my views on a political topic. Whether I was right or whether I was wrong, the end result was a lot of people were angry with me. Now let's look at this final one with the Bloffer Lady outfit. Basically, that's an entire outfit that is now denied to me. I can't wear it because it makes me feel uncomfortable. So, that's another aspect of gameplay I'm losing out on in what is, at the moment, probably my favorite PlayStation 4 game. So, that's a lot I'm losing out on. An entire game, an aspect of another game, and people who, and the opinions of people on my side. But let's take a step back, and that's all just for one thing, me being myself. But take a step back and take a look at what did I get out of this. Well, for one thing, even though I lost a lot of gameplay in a fun game, I can now play my video games and not feel uncomfortable about it. Not, think about people who had been victims of sexual assault. Because that's what essentially the topless ladies reminded me of, was the sexual scandals that were happening, and it seemed exploitative and just very inappropriate to me at the time, and it still does. And, unless they come out with a version that removes the topless ladies, I'm probably never going to play that game ever again. And, I've gotten peace of mind. I can now play my games and have fun with them. And I can know that I'm not going to accidentally stumble upon something like that in one of my games. I can feel safe and comfortable. Now, the second one is a little bit harder to see. So, in the long term, I've reaffirmed my own beliefs despite people disagreeing with me. But there's also an interesting thing that happened with that. So, after pretty much... Basically, what happens on Twitter is you'll get the controversy for a little while, and then people will stop talking about it. They'll move on to other, more controversial things in Twitter. That's kind of how it works. So you've got, probably a couple of days, occasionally a bit longer than that, but, a couple days of disagreement, then essentially people stop talking about it. And they move on to different things. If it comes up again, then, they'll start talking about it again. But usually, it just doesn't. Now, what happened that was interesting about it was a couple days after it kind of died away. Oh, looks like I'm to the edge again. So a couple days after it died away, somebody else posted on Twitter and commented on this. This is someone I'd never met or never knew. Basically said, said, hey, the people who were, calling me names, fascists, racists, and so on, were lowering the tone of the discussion. Actually praised me for keeping the tone of discussion quite high, which is not something I was expecting. I was not expecting anybody to praise me for anything. And pretty much basically said that I had a good point, that, even if you don't agree with people, they should have a right to voice their views and their opinions. So what that gave me was just the knowledge that, hey, somebody actually appreciated the points I was trying to make. And even if a lot of people disagreed with me, you know, at least one person was able to take a look and say, you know, I appreciate your points. I appreciate what you're trying to say, and I was trying to do a leap of faith there, and I just jumped off the side. Yeah, where's... Ah, there we go. And, you know, that actually was kind of what, whenever I post anything on Twitter, it's kind of to not just let people know what my points are, but to, you know, maybe get people to start thinking and say, huh, that's an interesting point, and, you know, maybe think about their own points. And that's kind of my goal on Twitter, and I got that, you know, and I just got confirmation that, hey, somebody did, even in what was essentially a very controversial moment, you know, somebody was able to appreciate what I was trying to say, and that's, you know, that's a validation, essentially, of my points of view, and it's not something I expected, but it still happened. And, of course, for the final one, what do I benefit by not using the Bluffer Lady outfit? Well, I benefit by, you know, feeling comfortable playing one of my favorite games. So, it's by being true to myself, you know, I not only... By being true to myself, I actually feel more at peace, more calm, than I would if I had just kind of, you know, wasn't true to myself. If I'd kept playing Assassin's Creed Origins, even though I was made extremely uncomfortable by it, you know, I would, you know, I wouldn't be true to myself. I wouldn't have as much joy or as pleasure from the game, or from playing video games, and, you know, I would have been, at least on a subconscious level, I would have been very disappointed with myself, and I probably would have, my self-esteem would take a dip, and I probably wouldn't entirely be sure why. And it would be because I'm doing something that I don't feel comfortable doing. Same with the Bluffer Lady outfit, and, you know, if... You know, that's one of the things. If I had gone on Twitter and basically went with what everyone else was saying about something, I wouldn't be comfortable with myself either. I would be just going along to get along. So, you know, so in the long run, all of this was quite helpful to me, even though it was a bit painful in the short run. I mean, I was out $60. I got rid of the game. I basically gave the game of Assassin's Creed Origins to someone else and just, you know, explained my issue and say, you get rid of it. If you can sell it or whatever. If you get money for it, hey, it's yours. So I was out $60 plus tax, so more than $60 for that game. And, you know, there was the financial cost and stuff like that, but, you know, money, yes, money is often short in my life, and it's probably short in everybody's life, but what is $60 compared to my own peace of mind, my own happiness with being myself? And, you know, even though, yeah, I would have preferred to not have lost that money, but on the other hand, you know, I'm willing... So that I can be happy with myself, I'm willing to get rid of it. And I think that's, you know, being true to myself. Being true to who I personally am. So, I wanted to kind of explore this being true to yourself type thing. It's like, how do you go about being true to yourself? How do you know if you're being true to yourself or not? And oftentimes we don't. You know, we're learning about ourselves, we're learning about what we're doing it. So I think probably the first lesson, first rule of being true to yourself, I think just straight up, is that we should, if something for whatever reason makes us feel uncomfortable, we should not do it. And I think, you know, no matter what age you are, if you're in a situation you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason by this situation, then by all means, don't continue in that situation. Take a step back, go and do something else. And I think especially when we're younger and we're not fully cognizant of who we really are, that can be a little bit more difficult. We just kind of go like, and we go along with the crowd and that. But I think when we have that instinct, when we have that feeling that, hey, something's not right, I'm not comfortable with this, then take a step back. And even, you know, even if it costs us friends, even if people say, if you do this, I'm not going to be your friend, well, you know what? That's not a very good friend who's going to do that to you. A good friend would be like, okay, I don't agree with you, but, you know, I understand. And, you know, they'll still be your friend, even if you're not, you know, necessarily into or doing the same things they're doing. And, you know, it's very important to kind of just figure out who you are. And, you know, even if there's a cost to it, like losing a friendship or losing, you know, something you really want, which oftentimes, yeah, being yourself, if you're being yourself, you're going to be losing something you want. Or that's something that's good. There's a price to pay for being yourself. But that's the thing. In the long run, it is worth paying. That's kind of what I've been saying the whole time. So one of the things I wanted to kind of look at and point out in this is that there's this idea that being yourself is essentially settling. That you just come out and you settle. And that's not how it works. You see, being yourself is not just being who you are now. It is being who you want to be. And so we're going to take a look at the skill tree here as kind of a demonstration of this. So, see all these gold-filled boxes that I am clicking through? Started the game, none of these were filled. Or I think one or two of them could have been filled at the beginning, but not too many of them were filled. Certainly the ones down at the bottom weren't filled. So let's take that, the Chameleon, or as I call it, the Eevee's Stealth Predator ability. One of my favorite abilities. That means I can turn invisible if I stand still with my hood up. You know, I did not have that at the beginning. I had to, like, work my way down to get it. I had to get my level up to level 6 before I could get it. And, you know, I had to work hard to get that skill and that ability. In fact, all of these skills and abilities, they cost me something. There was effort, there was time, there was work that was put into unlocking these skills. All of these skills. And this is the same way in real life. You know, we learn things, you know, by just in a step-by-step basis. We don't always, you know, we don't have them immediately available to us, but then suddenly we can turn invisible one day. You know, as silly as I'm making that sound, that's the truth of how it works. So we have these, you know, I don't think we're ever going to be 100% the person we want to be. And part of being true to ourselves is putting forth the effort to become the person who we want to be. And I think this takes on very many different facets, many different ideas and concepts are a part of this. So, you know, say we have a bad habit. Say, we'll say smoking. We'll just, something fairly non-controversial. Since I've probably been way too controversial already in this video. But we'll take something like smoking. Say you smoke. But say you don't want to smoke for whatever reason. Actually, let me give you a really good reason. Say you now have a kid, and the kid knows that smoking is a bad habit, and you also know that if you continue to smoke and keep on smoking, your kid's going to, you know, probably end up being a smoker themselves. And they'll have all the health risks and all the bad habits that come from smoking will be part of their lives too. And you want your kid's life to be better than it is. So, what do? You put forth the effort and you do what you can to stop smoking. And sometimes you get help, you get advice from people who have stopped smoking, you get, you know, addiction recovery processes. You go through all of that to make yourself better than you are. Now, does changing yourself mean that you are not Being true to yourself? No. It means that you're making yourself better so you can be just... It makes you more true to yourself. You know, going through these changes and going through the process of changing yourself makes you a better person. It makes you more true to yourself. So that it's a question of becoming the best self that you can be, as opposed to just being a bleh self. And being your bleh self is never good. And, you know, let me go back to the skill tree again to kind of show you this. Had I kept Evie's skills down here throughout the entire game, odds are I couldn't have beaten the game, for one thing. I couldn't have done quite a bit in the game. All these skills and these abilities gave me different talents and abilities, which allowed me to do different things as the game progressed. Made things that were incredibly difficult or even impossible at the beginning to be, you know, facile, very easy to do as the game progressed on it. And that's what improving ourselves does. It makes things easier, essentially. There's an old joke that parents tell about trying to force kids to study for tests. You know, and I think it's not... It's one of those jokes that does happen, I think probably quite a bit. But the joke is that they spend their time convincing their kid to study for a test and study, and the kid's like, no, don't want to study. Finally, they give in, they say, okay, we'll study. So the kid does all the study and puts forth the work to study for the test. Then after the test happens, the kid will oftentimes say to their parents, you know, I don't know why I bothered to study for that test. That was the easiest test I've ever taken in my life. And they won't necessarily make the connection that them studying for the test is what made that particular test easy. And that's the way it works with ourselves. If we work towards something, things become easier. You know, if you work out, if you do physical activity, suddenly you become stronger, you become more able to do more physical activity that would have seemed just virtually impossible to you before you started working out. Let's say, you know, some sort of outdoor work. We'll say mowing lawns. I do lawn mowing myself, so yeah, mowing lawns. Now, mowing lawns can be quite an effort, even with like even if you have like the best technology. You know, you're using a push mower that has an automatic push to it, and you have all the, you know, cool bells and whistles. It's still, you know, to mow a large lawn, that's some effort on your part is required. And so, you know, you go out, you do it, and the first time you do it, it's going to be hard. It's difficult to make that effort. I just want to stay here perched on the British flag for a second. But yeah, you put forth the effort, and suddenly mowing the lawn becomes a lot easier. You know, why? The lawn itself hasn't changed. The equipment you're using, at least we'll say for this example, the equipment you're using hasn't changed. But the thing that's changed is you. You've developed the muscles, you've built up your muscles so that you can suddenly do all these things that you previously weren't able to do. And, you know, and this is really a simple concept, but it is very true. The more effort you put into something, the better you'll become at it, and the easier it will be for you. And that doesn't deny who you are. That just makes you a better version of yourself. It makes you the best you can be. And that's really the whole point of this, to thine own self be true, is to be the best you can possibly be. Be true to yourself, make yourself the best person you can possibly be, and really kind of assess yourself and look at yourself and say, is this who I want to be? And if there's any part of your life where you say, you know, I don't like this part of me, work and make yourself the best you can be. So anyway, that's my little take on To Thine Own Self Be True. Like and subscribe if you like this. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.